Pierre, for making time with Reuters for this interview. Just to start, could you walk us through, the events of this week, from the time that, the president announced that, the era of petrol subsidies are gone, what has happened, and what has been your involvement in that as an NPC?
Okay, thank you very much. First, the statement made by Mr. President is just a confirmation of realities that are on ground. First, the Petroleum Industry Act was very clear that by the 17th of February 2022, there could have been no subsidy on petroleum motor spirit, because the law said that every petroleum product must be priced at its market rate. And of course, we got to February 2022, and it was very, very obvious that we are not prepared for this. And governments all over the world do give subsidies. And government decided that, despite the fact that the law said there will be no petroleum will be priced at its market rate, government decided through the National Assembly to appropriate subsidies on the PMS. Of course, we as a company, our role is to supply. It is business for us, and government decided that this should happen. So we did not have any problem with this. So we went ahead to continue to supply into the country until the end of the year in 2022, and it was still very, very obvious that those decisions could not be made. So the National Assembly again appropriated sums of money to cover subsidies up to end of June 2023. Now, the implication of this is that NNPC will continue to supply at its product at market, but also priced in a subsidized manner. And the complication is that while these provisions were made, there were no actual cash backings for those subsidies. What it means is that government has not been paying NNPC for the additional cost that we incur by selling this product below its market price. And we made this very clear over the year plus, making sure that we cannot continue to supply you when you are not able to reimburse the cost of the additional cost that will obviously come into the corporation. And what we did all through that is to hold back fiscal obligations of taxes and royalties that are due to the state. And on top of this, the value of the subsidy is still higher than our fiscal obligations. And therefore, we continue to take from the cash flow of our other businesses to continue to supplement so that we can sell at the commercial, at the regulated price. So this was a challenge, and it is becoming an obvious difficulty for our business. We cannot continue to do this. It is impossible to continue to supply when you are not getting reimbursement, and obviously it could distract us from our regular core businesses. And of course, ultimately, if this continues, we are going to get to a position of illiquidity. And we saw this challenge coming. So when the president made that pronouncement, it is very, very clear that these are the realities on ground. And of course, we obviously know that government can no longer support this. It doesn't have the resources since they can't pay us, but we adjusted our prices to reflect the market condition. That's really what we did. Irrespective of the fact that government, Mr. President made this announcement, it would have been impossible for NNPC to continue. It will still get to a point where we will have to do the adjustment that we made. So really, independent of the statement Mr. President made, we will have been left with no option than to make this decision. It is just a mere coincidence. But of course, it was also his campaign promise and that of all other major political parties in our country. So we know that this will happen eventually. The provisions up to the end of June is budget. Budget is different from financing and funding. And government did not have those resources to fund it. So this is where we are. So of course we took that decision. We adjusted our retail prices. Of course we are the sole supplier of petroleum into our country, and of course people will buy the bulk from us, both from the marine and also in our depots. And we so automatically adjusted those prices to reflect the new realities, and that would have saved us the trouble of going into difficulties continuing to supply. And of course, many things followed after that. Once you do adjust prices, stakeholders will have issues with it, very understandable. And of course, engagements have been going on. I think it's really where we are today. We're progressing with this. I do not see any alternative to this, because you do not have the resources. You cannot give what you don't have. And the situation we are in the country today is that the alternative to do is chaos and inability to supply. And I'm sure no country will accept this. And for us as a business, we cannot see anything different from what we have done because, ultimately, our company could go aground, and we believe that the country cannot afford this.
When you talk about engagement, engagements that are ongoing, what sort of engagements are these?
First of all, we're engaging our stakeholders. For us, the trading community who will buy from us, we engage them to ensure that they understand what is happening. Our retail outlets now adjusted their prices. We know the market will follow this. We also believe that some people can actually sell cheaper than we are doing because if you have better efficiency than we do from the depots into the fuel station, you can potentially sell this product cheaper than what NNPC is doing. This is very practical today now, and we're already seeing it in some locations because it is very, very possible now. Because we've made those decisions, we cannot be out of that conversation. And of course, there are ongoing conversations with labor unions, civil society organizations, and a wide range of stakeholders in the country to see how people will understand what happened and also to see how we can manage going forward. But for us at NNPC, it is a business decision because we cannot continue to do this. Otherwise, our company could actually go into very, very serious difficulty about its operations.
And so, that being done now, what does it mean for NNPC going forward in terms of its operation as a company?
I think it's a huge relief for our company because, mind you, this downstream business is just 20% of our business, or even less. And of course, it gives us the biggest distraction. 80% of distractions in our business comes from this 20% of the business. And therefore, for us, it allows us to focus on our core business, our upstream business, our gas business. Of course, that distraction has clearly taken us off focus on our key businesses. They are doing well, no doubt about it, but it takes a lot of executive time, personnel time, and also even resources. Now, you have to now shift resources from where you get most of your value to the most destructive part of your business, and that means that you will continue to see dwindling attention to your core business. So what this means to NNPC is that we focus on our businesses. We will limit ourselves to our roles under the laws of our country, which means we're not required to do more than 30% of the market. Actually, we cannot do more than 30% of the market due to the anti-competition law that is in our country. And gradually, things will ease for NNPC. Other players can come in, then a lot of relief will come to the NNPC, and I'm sure that we'll see greater growth in it. So for NNPC, it's a perfect opportunity moment for us to continue the projectile of growth that we're seeing in the company today.
And then on the issue of what you are owed by the federal government, how do you intend to recoup that? Because clearly that's quite a chunk of money that is being owed to NNPC.
It's typical receivables in any business. We know that we have a debtor that has a relationship with us. The state is the debtor in this case. And we also have the obligations to the state, taxes, royalties, and ultimately even dividends that we have to pay back to the state. So we can structure this with the state. We can have a repayment plan, deductions from our fiscal responsibilities, or deductions from the profits that this company will make, and eventually we can ease out of this. And of course, the state is very great. This is a very prosperous country. It can borrow to offset this debt that it owes to NNPC. There are many possibilities. I know that we're going to engage to see how we can get an amicable exit out of this. I'm not sure it's something that it can resolve tomorrow, but we know that we will engage after this event to see, okay, how do I get back my money?
So I mean, there's been a bit of angst out, even outside Nigeria in terms of what this means for petroleum products imports, right? Especially gasoline, from refineries, outside. In terms of, for example, you have the crude swap contracts running, I think, around up to October or so. What does that mean for that part of those kind of agreements that we already have? Because as you say, you are now going to be limited to about 30%, in terms of your imports, and yet you have all these obligations that you've signed.
Yes, first of all, I think we are exited the crude swap mechanism in our country today. It's arm's length trading between the product supply and also purchase of the crude oil. So we're out of that crude swap that people are used to, the DSDP and all other arrangements that are clearly related to this. Now, what does it mean to us as a company? It means greater liquidity. You are able to manage your lenders. You are able to meet your fiscal obligations and many, many things that you can do. So going forward, what this means to our company is that we'll go to the market like anyone. There will be reduction in volumes. Mind you, this change came at a period where prices are going up or prices are high. Because prices are high, consumers are very typical anywhere in the world. Once prices go up, demand goes down, and then ultimately you'll have a balance. Once demand go down, it means your obligation and your requirement for foreign exchange, the cash that you need to have to pay for the product will practically go down. And that means you will have more resources available. Our lenders will see that we have more access to liquidity. They will also see that we now have more cash in our hands. Once that happens, a number of triggers will come in. People will be ready to lend to us. More projects will come on stream. And ultimately, you will see very massive growth in the overall scheme of things in our country. So it's a very, very opportune moment for our country and for the industry. The financial world will see this. They will see that we now have much more credible access to financing. They will see that the projection that we are seeing in our crude oil production growth, which is very obvious now, it means that you will have net balances that is available for you to do very many other things. And then the collateral value of all this is really, really something that will come up very, very quickly, and people will see this.
So you talked about you already having exited that, the DSPDs. Some people were still actually of the view that this was still actually ongoing. When did this happen? Yeah,
it's in the last 4 months, we practically terminated all the DSDP contracts, and we're now having arm's length process where we can pay cash for the imports. So that's a very different environment now.
And in terms of like the other players who are supposed to come in, how quickly can they come in to also start now being suppliers of gasoline?
It can be as early as this month, because the market will now see that petroleum motor spirit is priced in the market at its market rate. Remember that currently private companies are importing AGO or diesel